what you can expect in this episode of Kingdom Commerce. I'll be interviewing Justin Powell, CEO and founder of Huntington Billboards. Justin's a builder. He's building a business, he's building a community, and he's building 2 schools at this moment. And we're going to learn all about each of those types. And we're going to learn how taking care of your community and those around you allows you to make greater gospel impact to the rest of the world. Thank you all for watching. Today's episode starts now. Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Kingdom Commerce. I am your host, Cooper Peterson, joined today by the billboard boss himself, Justin Powell.
I like that title. That's great. It's good to be back, sir. Good to be back. Good to chat with you again today.
Yeah, we had a really good conversation probably a month or two ago. For all our viewers on Spotify or Apple, you could find that on YouTube. But we did a little tour of your place and just kind of heard about your philosophy behind business and your school that you're starting and your community. And so today, really, the idea is we're just going to dive into that a little bit more.
Love it. I'm ready. Always ready to talk.
And it's something, as I'm a 23-year-old, I have this entrepreneurial bent in me. I want to build, I want to create, and I want to do it in a way that honors the Lord. And Justin, you've been an inspiration to me thus far in what you've been doing. And I just want to get a better idea of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how we as young entrepreneurs or those who are just starting our businesses can do it to honor the Lord in 3 specific aspects. So what I hope to dive into is you're building 3 things, Justin. You're a builder. It seems like you're building a business, you're building a school, and you're building your community as well. So just for starters, give us a little overview of who you are and your business and how you started that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to talk about the community around here, and I love to talk about what we're creating. We've got a lot of great people involved, and those people and what they're doing and what they're creating, their story needs to be told. And so I get the privilege of telling the story. So I am from a little town. This town is called Gordon, Ohio. You will very unlikely be able to find it on a map. It's very unlikely you'll ever be able to find it on a map. In fact, if you put it into Gordon, Ohio, like on a letter, it'll frequently go to Arcanum, which is the much bigger metropolis of 3,000 people. Gordon has a sum total of 65 residents, depending upon the day. 165 residents and roughly 74 houses. So that's the town. Up until we purchased the local, there was a Methodist church that had a building, and the Methodist church had shut down several years ago. And so we bought the Methodist church building. And up until that point, there was no businesses in town. There was no post offices in town. Nothing. Just 74 houses in this small town. And you're asking yourself, why was there 74 houses? If you live in the middle of nowhere, Justin, why is there 74 houses just kind of like gathered up together in one spot? And the reason is it was an old railroad town. So this was a stop on the railroad. And over time, the railroad disappeared, and but the houses remained. And so slowly but surely, the town's kind of shrunk a little bit. And one thing has led to another. And now it's just it's a very sleepy little town. The closest kind of, let me put it this way. Let me put it in terms that you will understand and your audience will understand. I am 23 minutes drive away from a Starbucks. Does that help? That's kind of, that gives you a reference. So we're not like 2 hours out. So we're reasonable. We're reasonable distance from a Starbucks, but we're not close enough to be like, I'm just going to go jaunt and get my morning Starbucks. It's a 50-minute round trip. So, it is what it is. But yeah, so that's where I live. I'm sitting in my office right now, and I think I said this in my last podcast. But as I look out at out my window, my office window, I can see my parents' house, I can see my brother's house, I can see my sister's house, and if I squint right down, I can see my house, which is roughly half mile down the road. So
that's awesome.
We have a lot of between me and the Brown family, dear friends of ours. It's about 75% of the population of this road. And so them and us are working together, maybe create some kind of toll road, charge people to get in and out. I don't know. We'll
That's
figure out
brilliant.
something. Yeah,
Brilliant
so that's where
business
I'm from.
tactics.
That's where I'm from, and it's important to understand the context in which I'm at. And so we bought the Methodist Church. My company moved in about a year and 3 months ago or something, and we I own a billboard company. It's called Huntington Billboards. It's likely that your audience has probably driven by one of our billboards somewhere in the country at some time.
I
Um,
know I have.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, there it is. Well, the little sign underneath it. So you'll see the big billboards, right? But the sign underneath it is Huntington. That's the name of the company. And so we moved in this church building, and then along the way, it was kind of one of those situations where when we bought the church, I didn't realize it at the time, but right next door was a parsonage, which is just a house that the pastor lived in, and I didn't realize it was a buy a church and get a parsonage free type situation. And so I had this house available right next door, and that house is where the Atlas students live, which is my entrepreneurship school. So I'm a big believer in Christians becoming involved in business and then starting companies of their own, building companies of their own, in their own small towns, right? And kind of being able to employ people and create beautiful things through business. And so there's that, and I'm very excited. So right across the street from that, we just bought another house, which will be able to
That's
house
exciting.
more Atlas students. So our capacity was 8 students, and this will up it to 16 if the guys are willing to kind of really really live tight. So yeah, it's great. So that's a little bit about me, and then right down the road, it was really cool. The people that sold us this church, kind of elderly folks, very very wonderful people. They sold us this church, and they were kind of worried about what we would do with it. We fixed it all up, made it beautiful, new wood floors, all this kind of stuff. And there was another church building that was a part of the same congregation, and that congregation kind of disappeared as well. And so in the next week or two, we are going to close on that church building as well, and that is hopefully where we're going to open a Christian classical school. So I have the name.
That's
I have the
awesome.
name now. See what you think about this, Cooper.
Okay.
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 Heartland Classical Academy. That's the name. If you don't
Heartland
like
Classical
it,
Academy. I
don't
like
tell
it.
me, please, because I already own the domain name. So I'm kind of like committed at this point.
Well, okay. Is it like your heart in the land, right? It's like you're investing like your heart and soul in the land. Is that what
I
it
was
is?
thinking more along the lines of like we live in the heartland, right? Like
Oh,
it's
okay.
like it's like that was kind of what I was thinking. But sure, that works too. So Heartland Classical Academy is going to be the name, and it's a half a mile down the street from here. And so
Yeah,
that's my new project.
they were
And
surveying it last time I was
yeah,
visited.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they finally got it worked out with all the regulatory environments and everything, and all the regulatory, different municipalities, townships, etc. And so I'm excited because, and by the way, if any of your audience is interested or knows of a headmaster, I'm looking to hire a headmaster to run the school. And initially, it's going to be just a one-room schoolhouse in this beautiful 100-year-old church building. It's got stained glass. It's gorgeous. And we're going to start with K through third. In opening, Heartland Classical Academy opening fall 2025. So
That's
a
awesome.
year from this fall. So I got a lot to do. But the building is finally going to get closed on in the next week or so. So yeah, so those are the things I'm involved in, as well as some other nonprofit activities, etc. But yeah, that kind of
Yeah.
gives you a flavor of what we're doing here.
Sure.
So yeah,
Yeah, I want to dig into
long
each of those
introduction.
things.
Long introduction. You probably lost all of your audience, Cooper. I apologize.
No. It's interesting, Justin. You're a really interesting person with a lot of interesting projects, and I want to dive into each of those, starting with business, and then we can talk about your schools, Atlas and Heartland, and then we can
Sure.
really dive into community, and then I want to wrap up with just some of your concluding thoughts and the philosophy behind it all. So tell
Sure.
me about Huntington. How did it start? When did it start? Why did you start it? And what is your mission with it today?
So 2009, Great Recession, 2010, right during that time frame. Rough economy. There wasn't a lot of jobs in the area. My area is heavily manufacturing, and so during that time frame, things got pretty bad. A lot of stuff had been outsourced to China. A lot of stuff had been outsourced to Mexico, and so there wasn't a lot of employment in the area, which was difficult. And then, frankly, there wasn't a lot of employment anywhere. I mean, it was 08, 09. I know,
Right.
Cooper. You're what are you, junior, senior now?
I just graduated. Well, grad school. Actually, I'm still in grad school technically. So
Okay, all right. But you've got 100 options. You've got like 100 different job options.
true.
Like so many people want to hire you that it's crazy. Am I right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much the best at. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think, I think you're right. There's so
Yeah, there's
many
a lot of
different
job
options, and
options.
especially with just like, with LinkedIn, Handshake, all those different tools. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of different ways I could go. And yeah, you're
So
right. I mean, I was only like what, probably in second grade or so, in 08, 09. I don't remember
man,
that,
make me feel old. Thank you,
but
Cooper. That's
yeah,
great. That's good. No, so when I graduated, there was no jobs, and so I remember getting a suit, putting a suit on, and having a couple interviews, and it was like for jobs like McDonald's, that kind of thing. And they
right.
looked at me and they're like, "Well, we have like 35 other applicants for the checkout counter, and Justin, you don't have any seniority, so no, thank you." I had a
Oh my
bachelor's degree.
word.
I had a bachelor's
Yeah,
degree. Was that hard? I mean, it
that's
was tough.
wild.
It's hard to make a living back then. And so I was like, fine, I'll start a company. And so I spent the next like period of time trying to figure out what I wanted to do, kind of through a series of events, which we can go into more detail or less detail. I landed on billboards, started building billboards. We built our very first one. Took a lot of effort. I mean, it was a lot of effort. I didn't, and then the hard part was like I was trying to tell a friend the other day. I was like, look, the thing about it is, it's not just that like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. It's that all of your contractors don't know what they're doing. Like nobody knows what they're doing. So nobody knows how to build the billboards. Nobody knows how to install install the vinyls on the billboards. Nobody knows how
Right.
to fabricate the billboards. Nobody knows any of that, right? You are learning and you're trying to teach everybody else at the exact time when you in fact know the least amount about what you're talking about, right? So it was a whole, that's what happens with every kind of company, I think. So anyway, we built our first billboard, cost 3 times more than it should have. It stands to this day, which is a testament to my builder at the time, John. Not a testament to Justin's intelligence or his ability to build things well. And so yeah, but build it, and then slowly over the next numerous years, we built a couple more, built a couple more, built a couple more. And how did I live during that time? Not very well, actually. Pretty much borrowed my parents' cars, lived at their houses. God bless good, godly parents who are willing to support their kids and
Yeah.
their entrepreneurial endeavors. And so, you know, we uh, we we eventually got to the point 3 to 5 years in where my siblings, my sister and brother, looked at me. I was like, "Hey, Justin, I see that you're doing this. It looks like you're doing well. Like, can I come in and I'll help you with sales?" That was my sister Jenna Powell, or Jenna Barron now,
Nice.
and then my brother Chase is like, "Hey, I can build them." And so thus began kind of the 3 people that kind of started, taking different pieces of it and started building and growing and everything else. And so yeah, very very exciting. Let's see, the first 5 years of my company. After 5 years in my company, I had something like, I think it was probably like 100 billboard faces. It's like total. Maybe it might have been 200 at the end of 5 years, something like that.
Wow.
Okay. Um, and then and then um, and then they came on. We started growing faster and faster, and we got to about 300 or 400 billboard faces. And then the general manager came on. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about. So when I say like 100 billboard faces, what I really mean is like 25 structures, because there's like
Okay.
4 faces on each structure, 2 in each direction or whatever else.
Right.
So I wanted to tell you that because so we're ending Q2 right now. Okay, we're ending Q2. Does that make
Okay.
sense? So
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
gotten Q1 and Q2. Okay, now remember, and so I'm gonna show you. I've got on my list here. I just got the report in of how many we've built in the first 2 quarters of this year. Okay, and so remember, at the end of year 5 years worth of work, we were at like 100 billboard displays, which is like 25 billboard structures. Okay,
Right.
now at the end of the first 6 months of 2024, right there. Can your audience see that?
119.
We built 119 structures, or right around 480 faces in the first 6 months of this year.
That's awesome.
And let me tell you something. I want your audience to know this. I want your audience to know this because things don't start out fast, right? Things do not start out fast. Things are always a slow kind of rhythm. And it might be the first 3 or 4 years you're feeling like, man, we are growing so slowly, right? But sometimes you gotta walk before you could run. And now I look at it, I'm like, I can't believe I never would have imagined this when I was in my early 20s that we would ever accomplish anything like this. But the tenacity and the kind of the effort and that those early learning years are so vital to be able to kind of get to where you want to go eventually. And we would never be to where we are today if we would not have had those really slow years along the way to be able to grow, to grow slow, to be able to learn the whole process and then be able to, to build like we are. So yeah, we are by far the fastest growing, fastest building billboard company in the country.
That's amazing.
And it's the team. It is a team. I wrote this morning in AMO. I said, you guys are amazing. Like, we're the best at what we do. Keep it up. Work hard and keep at it. So that's the billboard company.
Yeah.
We're in 14 states and 3,500 billboards.
That's amazing. I really like what you said there. Something that Joe Abraham, one of the you call him executive producer of the show, he's been on quite a bit in our interviews, and one of the things that he says a lot is, you need to give it a few years of just hard work without reward. Yes. And that's just something we have to expect. And I think it's something that I've learned as a young entrepreneur, just in my first couple of years of trying to start a business. And it's like, in our culture today, everything is just instant gratification. And it's something that you have to kind of rewire your brain, especially I think people my age with with social media and the internet, where you can have information and knowledge immediately. You have to understand that, like, okay, that's a tool. You can have instant gratification and learning lots of new skills, but to actually achieve the success of a business, it more often than not, it takes years and years of honing in skills and perfecting the process. And so 100%. I really like that you're a testament to hard work over a long period of time can achieve amazing results. So that's encouraging to me. So thanks for sharing that. I want to dive in before we leave the topic of business, because it really is incredible what you've been able to do. How does your faith as a Christian play a role in how you do business? Is there any principles that you apply that you think would be different from what say the secular world does in business? Is there a theological a point or purpose behind starting a business? How is it, stewardship? What are your thoughts on that? What drives you to do your business in a way that glorifies Christ?
Sure. So on all of our billboards, we put, the little fish logo and John 3:16 at the bottom. Just kidding.
I was like,
you're like,
I
wow,
don't think I've seen that.
that wasn't the answer that we were really looking for, right? So, it's funny because growing up, I had those debates with people like, oh, what does a Christian company mean, right? What does that mean to be a Christian company? And for me, how does at the end of the day, it's like, how do I take my theological beliefs and my faith into the public square, right?
Right.
And to me, it is not, they are not separate, right? People want to segment their lives out. This is work. This is church. This is my life at home. This is my nonprofit work. These are my sports, right? And at the end of the day, I'm a big believer, and it's like, look, it all should be interwoven. All of life is kind of interwoven, and there really should not be a lot of separation between our work and our families and our lives, etc. Right? It's kind of all flows into each other. And I mean, we know this to be true, whether we like it or not. Like, our work flows into our family life, right, and our family life flows into our work. I mean, we have employees, and their family life affects how well they do at their job 100%, right? Absolutely. And how well you do at your job affects what your family life looks like as a result of the financial, production that increases, or how much you're working and all that kind of stuff. So I am a big believer in a holistic life, looking at your life holistically and being able to go, how do we have a good life, right? Not just a successful one, right? Or not just oh, I have a good family life, but my work life is terrible, right? There's a quote, and I'm going to butcher it. It's something along the lines of you know, you, work is not life, right? But you can't have a
Right.
meaningful life without work. And I love that quote because it's like people really do want to separate work from life. Like, oh no, work is, you only work, Justin, so that you can earn enough money to support your family. That's why you do it, right? And I just look at that and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
talk about like not only will like your family not get the benefit of being able to see good productive work, right? And what that does to you and what that does to your family, but also like it on the other side, it just you live a life that is like unfulfilled. You just go and fill up those 8 hours with meaninglessness to you because
Right.
you don't care about your work,
Right.
right? So that you can go and live, right? It's very much like living for retirement. The same
Yeah.
people who are like, yeah, we work for 40 years, and here's the deal. I'm going to say something that is probably so antithetical to like, your audience and how many, but like, this is Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey's whole live now like nobody else so that you can live later like nobody else, right? Is like, I understand the premise, right? Is like live responsibly. I get that. But at the end of the day, what it is like, you know what? Like, don't go on that vacation. Don't go on that vacation so that later on you can go on that vacation. But what does
Mm.
that do? It's like, well, your family, your kids, when they may need a vacation, when it may be the most impactful to them, right? Aren't going to be able to go on the vacation. So it limits your entire life down to financial decisions,
Right.
which is one consideration, not all of the considerations. And so for me, it's like, look, we look at life holistically. We figure out what are we willing to give up and give to be able to create a beautiful life. And at the end of the day, I think this, from a theological perspective, this comes back to understanding that life and work is worship, right? We
Absolutely.
are called
Absolutely.
to work. We are called to work. Work did not start, right, when Adam and Eve fell from the garden, right? They had this beautiful, perfect world, and there was work there. God gave them good work to do. And so we have to realize as Christians that work is not something that is a result of the fall. It is a God-given thing, something that we should cherish and that we should look at and go, God, how have you specifically made me? And then how can I use those gifts to glorify and worship you? And the ancient artists, the sculptures, the writers, the singers and the hymn creators, they all realized that their work, right, was an act of worship to God, something that they could sculpt this beautiful of sculpture of Adam and Eve in the garden, and that would point the viewer, right, the audience, towards Christ, towards some kind of ultimate truths. The hard part is in a lot of Christian cultures, we have put a dividing line in the secular and in the holy. Great,
Yeah.
go make your money, but come back to the church and become a greeter, right? Or come back to the church and be a pastor once you've made your money and give. Like, the only reason you work is so that you give. When in fact, a proper theological understanding of work is our work, the best of who I am, the best of who God created me. I work hard and I offer up the fruits of those labors up to God, right? That
Right.
billboard that I create, the best pieces of me, my tenacity, my charisma, right? My understanding of how to build things and how to create beautiful designs, right? All of the pieces of me go into that billboard. And you might think to yourself, wow, Justin, that is a fairly objectively ugly thing that you created. Well, not all of us were terribly gifted. Some of us have to, some of our best is billboards, and that would be me. And but when I build that billboard, to me, it is the most beautiful thing, right? Because I know how much of the best parts of me went into it. And when I create that billboard, and when I look at that billboard, I have one of two choices, right? I can either decide, I can either say, wow, what a beautiful monument to the greatness and genius of Justin Powell, right? Or it can be, wow, look how God has gifted me. And as a result of that gifting, look at the beautiful thing that I can create to the glory of God, right?
Absolutely.
And you can offer up the best of what we are, the best of who we are, the best of what we can create, and we can offer it up as a sacrifice to God, and that is worship, right? God, when I do this, I see your glory in how you have made me, and as a result, I want to work as well as I can to go, God, you create, you build, and therefore I create and I build. Eric Little, who was a Lydell Little, was a runner, right? And he was in the Olympics, and his quote is when I run, right, I feel God's pleasure. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And when I build billboards, Cooper, and when you do podcasts, right, I feel God's pleasure. I feel that this is how God has uniquely made me to do this thing, right? And so
Right.
I hope it's the same for you with podcasts. It's certainly that way with me with billboards and all the other things I create, right? I don't do Atlas and Forge and the school because I'm paying pittance or I've been so blessed, therefore I feel like I need to give something. That's not how it is. I
Right.
build, I create, I want to see beautiful things created and built. And out of that, that's what I do. So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully that's another long answer, man, Cooper.
No,
This
that's
is getting
fantastic.
long, man. I apologize.
Hey, we might have to do a part 2 then to cover the rest of the
Yes.
content here. Um, no, Justin, I think you're really right, and I think especially with young men, God has put a desire in our hearts to build, take dominion, to conquer
Yes.
in a sense. And I think when we don't do it for God's glory, I think it kind of puts a void in our
Yes.
hearts where we're like, what are we actually doing this for? Like,
Yes.
really, we're called to provide for ourselves and our family and our church, but even if that job allows you to provide, but it doesn't have any really meaningful work beyond it, I feel like that can be something that's discouraging. And so what
100%.
I'm saying is, hey, somebody go be a headmaster for Justin's school, because that is
There it
actually,
is.
there's good work coming out
There
of
it
that, or
is.
go work for Hunting and Billboards because they're a godly Christian company, or go start your own business or what have you. But it's like, yeah,
I want to throw something. I want to throw something into what you just said. There is a rise of jobs in the United States that are bullcrap jobs, meaning they don't actually produce or do anything.
right,
And we as Christians should not partake in that. We should understand what our job does and what it creates. And if you're in a job that is a bullcrap job, right, get out of it. And here's the deal. I don't mean jobs that are just menial. I don't mean that. Look, I will go work menial jobs, and by menial, what I mean is like I am serving something at a restaurant, or I am digging a ditch, or whatever. Those are not meaningless jobs, right? Those are not bullcrap jobs. Those actually produce something. You are
right,
serving people, right? You are moving dirt so that water can be, right? Those all have purposes. However, there are many companies now, for the sake of adding employees and bosses feeling more important or whatever it may be, they add employees. And then they have them do garbage work, garbage jobs that don't produce anything, don't create anything, just for the sake of the boss feeling like they have more employees, right? Or just
right.
so that person doesn't go to the competition, right? On both sides of the scale, right? It's like, oh, well, we don't want that person to, but we already have someone in this role, so we'll just hire him, put him on the bench, pay him so he can't help our competitor, right? I don't I don't believe we are called to that as Christians. I don't think there's, I don't think that's something we should be called to or we should aspire to is a dead end or is a job that doesn't produce anything but gives us a bunch of money. I
So I would
just,
say, yeah, it's important, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working for somebody, to choose something that matters,
yes.
that you can
Yes.
find, that you can, feel as though you're using your gifts that God's given you and stewarding them well for a purpose that benefits
Yeah.
others. You know what I'm saying?
It builds
So
something, it creates something. We were made for that. We were made to build and create. That's what we were. And like all of us do it in different ways. All of us will do it in different ways. Whether you're a mother and you're building, and you're having children and you're building character into that child and you're raising them up in the way
you're
that
building a
that they
household.
should go,
Yeah.
right? Or in high school and you're learning and you're developing yourself for the purpose of whatever you want to create, right? All those things are beautiful, beautiful things. So you're 100% right. Couldn't agree more.
Well, thanks, Justin. Let's dive into your schools, Atlas and Heartland. I didn't know exactly. I know less about Heartland, but I do want to talk
Yeah, me
about
too.
Atlas.
Me too. I know
Okay.
I might know much less about Heartland as well.
Well, let's start with Atlas because you just crossed the halfway point. Am I correct in that? In your summer session?
Year two,
Okay.
6 weeks into the 12-week program. So, would you like to know where
Yeah.
Atlas is going in the future? I'll give
Tell,
you. So
give
I'm
me
going to give
give
you a quick overview of what Atlas is, and then I'll tell you kind of where we're headed.
absolutely. Yeah. Do it.
So I promised myself. If when I was in college, if I ever became successful, right, enough to be able to do this, I was going to create a school just for entrepreneurs. Okay, a school that young men, 18 to 30-ish, could come to and be like, "Look, Justin, I want to start a company. That is what I want to do with my life, right?" And what I would do is I would say, "Great, I will show you what it means to create a company." And so you're going to sit in on all my meetings, my finance meetings, my management meetings, my marketing meetings, my people, employee meetings, and on strategy meetings and everything, my board meetings, all those. You're going to sit in on all those. While you're also going to go out and you're going to do the things that we do. So 2 weeks ago, they were out doing sales, right? All over the country. We shipped them out all over the country to all of our salespeople, and they spent 3 or 4 days doing sales, right? With all of our people. That coupled with you're also going to read, in between, while you're driving, while you're, doing all this stuff, you're going to go and you're going to read 24 books this summer. And they are like, each week has a little different theme. So this week is management. So they're reading 5 Dysfunction of a Team, Necessary Endings. And then you have to write a paper on each one, 3 to 4 page kind of reflection paper, stuff from your own life, stuff you see from the companies, whatever. And then on Fridays, you're going to come and debate me. I've read your papers. In fact, I have an entire stack of papers on my desk here. You're going to come debate me. And I've read your papers. I've ripped them apart. And we have 3 hours from 8:30 to 11:30 that we were just battling on these ideas, right? Do you see this? Do you see that? Whatever. And then also, like, during the summer we have community dinners on Monday nights where they meet up with basically families from the community, invite them to dinner. They get to hear about their lives and that sort of thing. And on Tuesdays, we go meet with different business owners. I call them Justin dinners. And basically people from like, so this week was someone in HR who owned an HR company. We went and had dinner with him and they got to ask tons of questions. So it's that mixture of like networking, kind of book work, practical debate, discussion, writing, and then hands-on experience is like, gives the students like a very, very good overview of what it means to run a company. And then also like ways in which they can take the concepts from the books or take stuff they're seeing and then be able to conceptualize it through books, right? And so it's amazing because it's like, hey, we were reading in 5 Dysfunctions of a Team how trust when trust breaks down, there's major problems in companies, and then you saw that in such and such company, or you saw that in my company, or whatever else, and I tell students, I go, look, some of the stuff you're going to learn from me is because I do it real well. I'm just super good at it. But a lot of stuff you're going to learn because I don't do it well and you don't want to do it like me, right? So it's, it's both sides of the spectrum. So that's Atlas. That's what Atlas is. We accepted 8 students from 8 different states. We had about a 30% acceptance rate this year from applicants, and it's hard to get in because it's it's not paid. You don't pay for it. We give the students like a $3,000 stipend to come and learn. And the goal is, we got 6 weeks left. The goal is that either they go out and start companies immediately, or soon thereafter they once they graduate from college they start companies. That's the goal. So this is our second
really
year.
Neat. So you get to go to school for free or for a little stipend, which is pretty neat. And it's not a traditional school.
Yeah, that's
you get
right.
to go all over the
travel.
place.
I forgot the travel element of it. So we're going to Washington D.C. Going to meet up with some of my mentors and friends and a bunch of organization heads. And then also we're going to Cuba next week. So
awesome.
my friend is a pastor. His name's Andy, and I went and visited him last year. And when I was down there, I thought to myself, my gosh, I have got to figure out how to get my Atlas students here, because there's this beautiful thing where it's like, I want them to run towards building things and creating wealth and resources through business. But I also want them to run from something, right? And let me tell
Right.
you, when you see communism, it is unbelievable what it does, not only to a country's like material kind of well-being, but also their spiritual well-being. When people cannot create or build or care for their families, it destroys them. That's what happens. It destroys them, and
Yeah.
you see it throughout this entire country. So we're leaving the July 5th at 3 a.m. in the morning. So we're gonna have a big 4th of July party with all the people from our community. We leave the next morning. We'll be there Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we'll get back Monday early. So yeah, it'll be quite the whirlwind trip. So pray for us that we make it back. It's
Absolutely.
be interesting. I will say this, I'm willing to lose 1 or 2 students. I always said that, it's if there's 8 of them and I lose 1, that's still a B. It's totally fine.
She still passed. Oh my gosh.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, that's really exciting, and you'll have to send me over the link for the applicant form so some of our listeners can apply, and
Absolutely.
audience will include that in the description below. Absolutely, go check out Atlas Institute, right? So
Yeah, Atlas Institute. That's right.
get to hang out with Justin for 10 weeks. 10
That's
weeks
right.
of
It's
crazy
funny because
fun.
we're 6 weeks in and we're to that stage where it's like the current students are sleeping every chance they can get. So we'll be driving 10 minutes to the next spot or whatever, and I'll look back and they're passed out in the back seat. It's like, yeah, that's about right. You read, write, and go do stuff. It's great. So yeah, it's
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about Heartland Christian Academy. What's the goal of that? You said it was, for some reason I thought it was going to be more geared towards, like a university level age, but you said it was what, first through third grade, something like that. So what is
funny.
the goal with this in your community? And then we can also dive in to building the community aspect side of your goals here. So what is Heartland
Yeah.
Academy? What's it about, and what's your goal?
Yeah. At the end of the day, we need more people who care about where they live, who care about the community in which they grew up in, or care about the community in which they're currently living in, right? And we need them to be people who go, you know what? There's an amazing quote. I absolutely love this quote, and I'm gonna pull it up real quick, if that's okay. Do you mind if I pull it
Sure,
up
go
real quick?
ahead.
And I wanna read this to you because this is like one of the most. I thought this is basically explains. Before any modern man talks with authority about loving men, I insist with violence, that he shall always be very much pleased when his barber tries to talk to him.
I saw this quote
His,
on your
his,
Instagram recently.
yeah, his barber is humanity. Let him love that. If he is not pleased with that, I will not accept any substitute in the way of interest in the Congo or the future of Japan. If a man cannot love his barber, whom he has seen, how shall he love the Japanese whom he has not seen? I really do believe that there is just this within Christianity right now. There's just it's this sense of, I love humanity broadly, right? I want to care for my brothers or whatever, and you just.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't even know who they are. They don't even know what their real need is. It's just like, let's go fight the power for these people, or for some undeserved, resourced, underprivileged, people group or whatever else. And yet they overlook the people right in their backyard, right?
Yeah.
And granted, the people in their backyard may not need anything financially, right? May not need whatever, but they may be lonely. They may be in need of community. And so for me, I look at it, I'm like, look, I have a responsibility first and foremost, sort of morality proximity, right? It's like the people that are closest to me, I have the most responsibility to. And so when I look at the people around me, I go, look, like they're doing great. Like they're doing great. They're good people, love the Lord very deeply. But I want to see a school. I want to see a Christian school. Not everybody can homeschool their kids, but I want to make it so that they have an opportunity, if they so choose, and if they can't homeschool, that there is a Christian school in the area that has really, really high standards, right? That is going to train their kids really, really well. And so for me, I look at it, I'm like, look, when I look at the future, I want to see 500 Atlas students out in the world, right? Caring for their communities, using the resources that they've created as a result of the God-given kind of ability and willingness to build things through entrepreneurship. And I want them to take those resources, and I want them to be able to basically become oak trees in their community, right? Under which schools are started, churches are thriving, other companies begin, families are well cared for, and have, and parents have good jobs that are flexible to be able to help raise their kids. That's what I'm after. Like that's what I want. That's what I want Atlas students to create, and that's what I want to create. I mean, I want my area to be a beautiful and wonderful place to live. And I what I do is I just look at the different institutions in my area and I say, great, how can I make this better? How can I create the things, the kind of foundations, if you will, from which, like, my area, my community will thrive. And one of them
Yeah.
is Christian education. And so I've been praying for a building. I've been praying for an opportunity for something like this to pop up. And wouldn't you know, the people came to me with the other building, and they're like, would you be interested in building, or would you be purchasing this? And I was like, wow, God, like, this is too good of an opportunity. So it is in the beginning stages. We've got the building, and so I've got Atlas for the next 6 weeks, and then after that, my attention will shift a lot to this new Heartland Classical Academy. And so we're looking for a headmaster. We've got 3 or 4 organizations we're partnering with for the curriculum, etc. So yeah, so that's that. And I'm hoping everything starts small. I'm hoping there's
Yeah.
15, 25 students that first year. If that happened, I would love it. And down the road, what I would love to see is, there's 50 students per class, and all the way K through 12, right? And there's 600 students in this school, and every year 50 new students get 50 new well-educated students get kind of pumped out into the world. And then organizations like Forge or Atlas or Cedarville grab them up and say, hey, let us finish you off and help point you in the right direction, so that you can change the world in your own way. So
Absolutely.
that's why I'm a really big believer in localism, right? It's
Yeah.
like, well, what does your area need? I don't know. I'm not in your area. I'm just in my area. And so I know we
Right.
need a little local school, right? Local Christian school. I know we need more
Yeah.
businesses.
Justin,
So
I
your
think this
your
is
area
what,
is going to be different.
yeah, I mean, this is probably what I really admire you the most for, is what you're doing with your community and how you're building in your community. It's something that I'm really far from being successful at. And it's something that, as I look to the future and at some point I want to establish a future residence where I can dig roots really deep, like you talked about, being an oak tree. Um, it's something, growing up in a Christian home and everything. I think one of the popular thoughts, one of the popular practices is that the world needs us. I mean, it's under
Yeah.
the service, but the world needs us, but our country doesn't. And so I remember going
Yeah.
on a mission trip, my between my junior and senior year of high school, and I paid, it was like we raised like over $1,000 per student, and there were like 20 students who went for 1 week, and we helped build this house. We had no construction skills, and it was great. Like we made really good impact on this one family. But I looked around and I said, well, looking back, I said, what did I actually do for the people in my own community? I mean, we had to raise probably $20,000-$30,000 for that whole crew to go. And I think, looking back, I think there could have been probably something better done in our own country, in our own state, in our own city, where we have current knowledge of what the problems are. Whereas
Yeah.
it was just the, what do you call it? The startup cost to doing something like that, where we had no skills construction. It just seemed like there's something better to be done. And what you're proposing and what you're doing actively is you're saying, that's still important to reach the nations, like what Christ said in Matthew 28, go into all the world. But what I'm seeing is that my community right now is hurting. Your community right now is hurting. There are hurting people. There are broken people in there. And the question is,
Sure.
how are we as entrepreneurs and Christians, how do we build our communities up? And and doing sort of a bottom up, you know, growth and a bottom up way to grow good communities, as they're, in my opinion, I think a lot of them are degrading right now. So I really
So
appreciate what you're
can I
saying there.
can I give you a story? Can I give you a
Yeah.
story? This is my new favorite. This is my new favorite story. Okay. So it's fascinating because you're exactly right, right? Our, growing up, it was very much like, go there, go, go out, right? You can't live a life that's radical, right? If you don't go and experience new things. I think there's maybe some truth to that. You need to experience some new things. But let me give you, and here's always what's thrown against people who like stay, right? And who like want to build something, locally, and everything else is like, you're just talking about isolationism, Justin. You just want to create your own little hut, your holy huddle, and like care about your own people, and you don't care about anybody else. That's what's always said, right? That
Right.
is what's said. Let me tell you a story. This is so interesting. I had a group of people here 2 weeks ago, okay, and they're from Ohio, and they're from a county, and I'll tell the county in a minute because otherwise I'll throw off my story. But they're from a group of people. They're from a group of people that are considered like very isolationist, right? Like they don't care about anybody else. They're the Amish. I'm just gonna say they're the Amish,
Okay.
right? The Amish and the Mennonite, and they're from Holmes County, Ohio. That's where they're
Okay.
from.
Yeah.
And you don't get much more isolationist than Holmes County, like than the Amish, right? They stick to themselves. They go to church themselves, and all this kind of stuff. And you think those people don't care about anybody. They just care about themselves and everything else. They have a super tight community. They super care for each other, right? They create tons of businesses together. They do business together. They sell to the outside world, all this kind of stuff, right? Here's what's crazy. You ready for this? They came to me and they pitched me on their nonprofit because they do billboards. They do billboards all over the country. They have like 2,000 billboards they rent. And they're the 1-800-TRUTH billboards. You'll see them all over the country once I mention them, okay?
Wow. Yeah.
Those are Amish people.
Wow.
Amish people are putting up those billboards,
That's
and they
amazing.
have a 1-800 number that is manned, right, all the time. And people call in. They have 30,000 phone calls a year. People needing help, wanting to hear about the truth of the gospel. And guess who's on the other end of Guess who's on the other end of that line?
Amish.
A little Amish guy in suspenders with a straw hat. Literally, like they showed me the picture. I'm like, this is amazing. Holy cow. Like, and I thought about it. It's called Christian Aid Ministries is the ministry. That's one of 60 ministries they have. They do ministry all over the world. Okay. Cooper, guess how much money the Amish give to this ministry every year from their little itty bitty county in Ohio?
I have no idea.
$90 million.
Wow.
Every year, $90 million. And I look at that and I go, look, this is the problem. We've so neglected our own homes, our own communities, that what happens is to go reach the others. But what we've really done is we don't do a good job reaching the others because we have no home community, right? And our
That's
home
profound.
community erodes, and there's no ability to give when our own foundations are depleting and falling apart.
That's profound.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was the coolest thing. The most isolationist people you ever meet are out there, one county, one small area, giving $90 million a year to nonprofits and to charity. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
So
I thought that was
really,
a cool,
what
I
you're
thought that was a
saying
cool story.
is if you want to have a big impact, you need to take care of your community first. And
Yeah.
from there, that gives you the resources and the ability to change, the world is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
The Bible talks about like, look, if you care for your family first, right? The godless are the ones who don't care for their families. We got to care for our families. Got to care for communities. We got to, you kind of got to throw your hand and arms over top of your community and as Christian men, right? We let the arrows hit us first, right? I would so much rather the arrow and the pain of the world hit me before it hits the families in my area or the kids or etc. And I will do
Right.
whatever it takes to be able to protect them if I absolutely can, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, that Christian family, the mom and dad who are Christian, but for some reason get a divorce, and it does happen, right? Those kids, we lose those kids. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Absolutely.
well, how do we not lose those kids? We step in. We step in and go, look, it's when bad things happen, that's when the community is so important, and we're able to kind of like hold them close and be like, hey, we'll help get through this together. This is a rough thing, but we'll help get through it together. And, that's what we do. That's why community is so important.
Well, thanks, Justin. And, I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said, you really put the community aspect together with me. Take care of the people God's entrusted to you. And then if you're faithful with that, it'll allow you to bless the world. And
Amen.
So thanks, Justin. I know you got to go. So
Yes.
Thanks again,
Thank
man.
you for having
It was
me.
a great talk. And for all you watching, thanks again for watching another episode of Kingdom Kommerce. Go check out Atlas. Go check out Huntington Billboards. And hey, Heartland is going to need a headmaster. So if y'all want to be a teacher, I know some of y'all watch from Cedarville University. You're getting a teaching degree. So think about that. And go build, go and create, go and use the gifts God's given you for his glory. We'll catch you on the next episode. See you later.